Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Thursday, August 8th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today. The retrograde is retrograding. We've got here our 7 of Swords. This is like, I consider this the retrograde card. I'm just going to tell you guys, like whenever we start, every time, like a bad penny, every time we get into these retrogrades, we start seeing this 7 of Swords popping up. Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, introspection. The reason the retrograde's nice, the past comes back to the surface. But why does the past come back to the surface? Because it shows you how far you've grown, love. It shows you how far you've come. It shows you how far your own perspective has shifted. So if there's something that's coming back towards you right now, I want you to really recognize and identify and honor how far you've come in relationality to experiences from the past. Though they may be triggering. We're not going to say that they're not triggering, right? But I'm going to say the same thing that I always say when we get this 7 of Swords and it's upright showing up in our readings. We don't go back to the sword. You can all say it with me. We don't go back to the sword store for puppies or kittens or bunny rabbits. We only go back to the sword store for one thing, swords. And as we mentioned, I'm not surprised to see this now because we saw that a lot of the work that's occurring right now is recontextualizing past experiences based on present understanding. So I told you, there's a lot of contemplative energy in this particular retrograde right now. So a lot of this is being able to recognize experiences from the past that may have felt more triggering. But what occurs in that moment that something from the past comes forward that's triggering, but you got new energetic standards? We call that a breakthrough sometimes. Masculine and feminine energy deep within the divine union frequency. This could be a lot of emotional or energetic unpacking that's happening here. This could be a lot of that energy going through a lot of that path work. Because again, recognizing and identifying to a certain extreme or a certain degree how far you've energetically come. A lot of this work that we're seeing that is occurring right now within the divine union is navigating spaces and places that used to be very energetically triggering to you. You know, what occurs in those modalities where something that is energetically triggering doesn't have an effect on you? We call that healing. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy right now, having that ability of potentially even recognizing or identifying those spaces and places in the past wherein you may have felt more triggered, right? Like there's a lot of catharsis that comes through in some of this emotional or spiritual unpacking that we're seeing right now. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union. This could feel a little bit more hairy right now. And why are we seeing this? Because we saw and identified that, and I just saw it, there was a little bit of that overprotectiveness that was potentially arising up for some of the masculine energy as you're moving deeper into divine union right now. We even saw that there may have been a little bit of territory that had to be navigated yesterday in relationality to masculine feeling a little bit more emotionally sensitive over something that feminine doesn't really have a lot of emotionality towards. But that's why it's so important, and that's why I was saying this over and over and over and over and over again yesterday. Not allowing oneself to be energetically triggered. Not allowing that to be something that triggers you, but allowing that to be a breakthrough point in terms of being able to articulate how you're feeling instead of subjecting others to what you're feeling. We see even now that for a lot of the energy right now coming into divine union, that ability of recognizing and doing something in a way that you wouldn't have before, like that is a sign of how much of that like work in this space or place of intimacy is occurring. Because for a lot of the energy in that modality, seeing that ability of taking a new approach with a counterpart and experiencing a different result as a result of doing something in a different way. Like a lot of that, again, I like, one of the things about Leo season we don't give it any credit for is like, Leo season's often like a little bit of this, like I'm proud of myself too. So like we see even now, like there's a lot of that energy that's going through that modality right now. And they're honoring how far they've come while also holding space for those places and spaces in the past where it's like that modality of correctiveness is potentially coming through in those experiences right now. While for masculine and feminine energy in separation, a lot of this work that we're seeing that's occurring in separation right now, this is a little bit more difficult. I'm going to say it. It's a little bit more difficult because There's a lot of that. I told you there's a lot of catharsis that's coming through right now for the energy in separation. For energy in separation right now, this may feel like a little bit of a resting place. You know, this may be a little bit of a modality here. Again, something occurring that's like almost creating a sense of stillness. I don't see, and like even if these are modalities of something like coming into healthy separation here, like I don't see this like over eagerness right now to throw oneself into something new energetically, because again, a lot of that work is still like, a lot of it is almost still being processed in a certain way. There's a lot of this contemplation that's kind of coming through right now, and a lot of it has to do with navigating the experiences of the past in the context of the present. Second card, but with a heightened degree of care and empathy and compassion for the self in the process. Second card in our 5-card spread for today. Oh, he's still in his reversal. Masculine energy. This is the same space that we at least we got some consistency, masculine energy, and how you're potentially feeling right now. Because we're seeing even now that for a lot of this masculine energy, this is a sensitive time right now. There's some sensitivity here. But I think that the important thing that's occurring right now for a lot of the masculine energy in that place, and this is why I'm going to keep saying the masculine energy right now, you know, recognize the difference between feeling what you're energetically feeling and how one expresses it. Make sure that in the expression of how you feel, you don't move yourself, you don't take a step backwards, you know, because we see even here that for a lot of this energy right now of the masculine, you know, in separate, like across, I want to say across all of the frequencies, you know, that ability of feeling energetically triggered to a certain extent, like a lot of this work that we're identifying for masculine right now, like it feels like a lot of that, it feels like there's a lot of regret that's coming through. But I'm going to say this again. I'm going to have to say this a lot apparently during this retrograde period. Masculine energy, if you have reached a moment in your own journey where you're looking back and you're holding regret for things that you've done in the past, remember that that is a gift that is being given in the present to show how far you've come. You're setting new and energetic standards for yourself. So we see even now that there's some of that emotional unpacking that's occurring right now for masculine. And that may have to do with either navigating spaces in the places in the past where you feel that frustration about the fact that you can't necessarily change something, but also feeling a bit of that flux in terms of like how one moves forward in the present context. You know, don't let yourself get in that space. Like, again, I'm going to say this, like, don't let the retrograde build you into that context of emotional overwhelm. Let it be that modality of breakthrough. Like, let that be the modality of experiencing a point of being able to feel what you're emotionally feeling to a certain extent. For the masculine energy and separation right now, you know, some of this is navigating frustration, and some of it right now, I have to point out something that's happening for masculine in separation right now has to do with the difference between something that feels like it's a tangible obstacle, something that you feel like you can't change right now, that is like lending context to spaces and places wherein you may have felt like you couldn't bring your full intentionality or authenticity forward from the past. I'm just seeing this here. But this is healthy work. While for feminine energy right now, you know, a lot of that same work that we're seeing is being navigated, particularly around feminine and separation, you know, potentially has to do in that realm, and we talked about this yesterday, experiencing and receiving that modality. And I see two different modalities for feminine right now. Either navigating circumstances or situations of masculine that's trying to articulate the fact that they, you know, wish they could make something energetically easier. and the feminine like acknowledging it, and the masculine almost having that modality of the feminine seeing them in that, like in that way. Like it's allowing for a lot of that like openness to occur. So there's something here very cathartic and healing in that way. Or this could be a lot of feminine energy and separation, navigating experiences or places and spaces from the past coming towards you in this way, are trying to articulate something that they couldn't articulate from past experiences. This is some of that hairy retrograde energy that we often see to a certain extent. There's a lot of this path work that's emerging to try to recognize points, like the difficulty, the spaces and places that can allow for healthy energetic resolution, or the recognition. But even in like that point of resolution, like that's either the resolution in terms of experiencing something in the present and feeling something that, there's like that sense of trying to like change something here. Or there's that mode, like there's a lot of change around some things right now. There's a lot of this work that we're seeing that's like the amplification point of the difference between what one can change within the self versus what one needs to navigate as it relates to the circumstances that they are at present. Now for masculine and feminine energy, and again, it's a little bit more emotionally overwhelming right now for masculine, because masculine comes into that modality of like wanting to change something, having a little harder time coming into those spaces or places of emotional acceptance. For masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union. A lot of this work that we're seeing coming into divine union right now, this is still a little bit more, and I got to stress this, masculine, it's really important that you don't become reactive, that you just kind of articulate through some emotionality here. Because I see even now that for some of the masculine coming into divine union, something about some of these experiences right now, the ability to let go of the past is really important and vital in relationality to moving deeper into the divine union frequency right now. Especially and particularly because I did see there might be a little bit of like energetic conflict that's arising towards something, where in masculine, it's almost like masculine is more emotionally sensitive about something right now than feminine is, right? So what occurs in those modalities that we see that there's a disparity between feminine being more productive and practical versus masculine being more emotive, like making sure that you process through that, making sure that you articulate through it, like that can allow for a lot of energetic breakthroughs. But this is, I'm going to say it right now is not the time to come into a space of assumption. Don't let that emotional overwhelm cause you to assume the worst. Let it be a space or place of introspect to identify what is clear, what is present, as opposed to making assumptions based on past experiences right now, coming through very strongly for masculine energy. For feminine energy right now coming into divine union, and that's where we see even now, like something about that energy being emotionally protective about something. It may feel a little bit energetically difficult, because for some of the feminine energy experiencing that at this time, almost having, like, again, this can be a lot of breakthrough points in terms of talking about the past with masculine to help them navigate something that they may be feeling more emotionally triggered about. While for a lot of the feminine energy, or this can be a lot of modalities right now that I see even now, there's that letting go of the past because you're moving deeper into emotional connection right now. That's it's requiring the addressing of the past. So this is either, again, I keep seeing this, either energy that's getting rid of stuff from the past, or clarifying about the past in a way that feels like it's amplifying and productive. But that's why it's really important that you don't become reactive towards it. While for masculine and feminine energy deep within the divine union frequency right now, this is more of that masculine energy being in a lot of the same modality that we found them in yesterday. This is just masculine that's feeling, I want to say, there's a bit of there's a little bit of emotional fragility that's occurring right now for the masculine energy deep within the divine union frequency. But again, that's because we saw so much of that energy navigating from a state or space of like working through inner child wounds. If there's something that's come up over the last few days that's like triggered an inner child wound, it's not uncommon for the masculine energy to be in a state or space of like feeling like a little bit delicate, a little bit more soft, as it were. But that's also why we see even now the masculine observing that, not becoming reactive through it. Like that's what's allowing for this to become kind of a heart opening exercise, as opposed to the masculine feeling the frustration point of not being like in a modality where they feel like they want to like take on like that energetic burden. Feminine kind of being very supportive to masculine at this time that's in that modality, helping them do a little bit of that emotional unpacking, just kind of again being that, like, I want to say the emotional support system in some way, but in a way that feels like it's helping to create catharsis and healing. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is, there we go. We like seeing, oh boy, we love seeing this card in its upright, its reversal. We've got here our 9 of Swords in its reversal. So masculine and feminine energy deep within the divine union frequency right now. This is really beautiful. I mean, I gotta say, it's delicate, but it's really beautiful energy, because there's a lot of masculine energy deep within the divine union frequency right now that is learning the ability of being like, that it is safe to be emotionally vulnerable, so long as you don't like react, like so long as you don't subject others to that, so long as you articulate through it. You know, I told you a lot of this work that we're seeing right now, like this is a lot of masculine energy deep within the divine union, like doing some heavy lifting, right? Because that heavy lifting is not like actually lifting something heavy. It's being able to feel something and just allowing oneself to feel it. Like a lot of that energy is like coming into that experience or that modality of like observing the past in a different way, because again, what happens in the moment that you're allowing yourself to emotionally feel something in a way that you didn't before? It recontextualizes and reframes the past experience. So a little bit of this work that's happening right now from masculine energy deep within the divine union frequency, there's a lot of inner child wounds that are healing at this time. And a lot of them are coming through in the state or space of recognizing that it's, again, your intrinsic value does not exist in having to be the strong person all the time. For a lot of the feminine energy, almost articulating that towards masculine right now, maybe helping them by creating kind of that sheltering space where it feels like they can kind of recognize and identify that. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, this is why it's feeling a little bit more difficult for some of the energy coming into divine union right now. And I want to be really mindful of this, because this is giving me a little bit of make or break energy for some of the energy moving into the divine union frequency right now. That ability of I gotta say this, remember, we only pull from the past if we're pulling a tool. We don't pull weapons from the past. We pull tools. We don't pull weapons from the past. We pull tools. So we see even now that there's something really important that's occurring right now, especially if there's something about the past that is triggering towards masculine. Coming into that state or space of like allowing oneself to like, again, not build into that pathwork of assumption, but almost coming into that state or space of productivity, and potentially even recognizing your own tendencies of becoming like protective in moments that you feel energetically triggered. We see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy coming into divine union, trying to articulate upon something that may have emotionally triggered you, potentially in relationality to a past experience. You know, we see even now that this is either a modality that may be leading to a lot of emotional or energetic breakthroughs. But I want to be very conscientious about this. Stuff like I'm seeing here can also fall you out of the divine union frequency pretty right quick, especially if you're building into that world of assumption. So I think right now it's really important for masculine energy to recognize that, like, you know, how one articulates through something, you know, like it's requiring a little bit of that confronting of the self, you know, like that that observational point, you know, towards one's own ego in a certain way, right? And like the ego is important, but like the ego is like, I always like to point this out. We have to be on good terms with our ego, because an ego unchecked will move you far away from the directionality of what you intend really, really easily if you're not in good relationship with it. For feminine energy right now, like navigating some of that with masculine as you move into divine union, like that could either be leading to some really, really deep breakthroughs right now. Potentially, and particularly if there's masculine that's like articulating through like their own tendencies around the egoic self. And that's why it's really important right now, because again, if this is a modality where the masculine energy is becoming too emotionally reactive, recognizing that nothing frightens feminine energy more than masculine that comes into a state or space of an emotionally overreactive ego, because then that's a moment of the feminine that feels like they're seeing masculine in a modality where like their own ego is moving them away from the things that they aspire and desire for. So we see even now, like there's a lot, like this is like a lot of retrograde with like some deep unpacking that's potentially occurring around some situations here, and the ability to like make peace with things here, and finding a way to experience emotional overwhelms but have them hit a like healthy resolution. There could be some energy right now that's like moving into divine union and like having their first conflicts, like having their first, like having those moments of like that something needs to be like addressed here, like something needs to be like navigated. Well, for masculine but here again, like what happens when we hit those sensitive areas, but we're able to articulate through them with care and empathy, even in a space of conflict, it becomes something that feels like abundantly nourishing and abundantly healing. While for masculine, and that's why I'm saying right now, make sure that you don't get reactive, because yesterday's cards showed a lot of volatility. Now, masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now, for a lot of that energy that's in separation, there's a lot of deep contemplation that's happening right now. And I want to say there's something that's happening in separation for both, and it's having a different impact on masculine and feminine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. You know, for feminine, and this is a lot of the feminine energy in separation, which is compassion, but with healthy boundaries. You know, I see even now that there's a lot of energy of the feminine right now, if in separation, something that's happening in the context of the present is giving you new eyes in relationality to something that you experienced in the past. And I want to say it's like a lot of that feminine energy bringing compassion towards something from the past, but in a way that doesn't feel like it's opening it back up in this isn't feminine energy that's trying to go back to the past. It's feminine energy that's like healing from it by recognizing again, like potentially a lot of the feminine energy, recognizing some experiences in the past wherein masculine's unhealed ego moved them in a direction that was oppositional to the one that they aspired to or desired to move towards with feminine. Like this is almost like there's almost a lot of feminine energy, I want to say, that's looking back with those in those experiences and almost seeing those energies like in the modality of the unhealed inner child. And that's why when we see the energy and the point of view of the unhealed inner child, well, you know, again, it doesn't make you lower your standards. It doesn't make you change your boundaries, but it does allow you to like look at something with like a heightened degree of compassion, right? While for masculine energy right now in separation, a lot of this work in separation right now, there's a lot of this, like, and this is why I'm saying even now, I'm going to say this really firmly to masculine energy in separation. Remember that if you're holding emotional regret about anything in the past, then that is an example of how far you have come. Because if you're looking at the past version of self and you've got notes for them, well, that means you're not that person anymore. And the present always allows the context in terms of doing something differently to a certain extent. So a lot of this work of the masculine and separation right now, there's like looking back, but that looking back is the reaffirmation of what you're changing going forward. So like a lot of this energy, the masculine is almost looking back and saying, like, I almost see like a lot of masculine in separation looking back on the past and being like, I'm repeating a cycle, like, and like looking and saying to themselves, like, how do I not repeat that energetic cycle, right? Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, woof, okay. So again, I like to point this out. We're not afraid of the Tower cards. I'm going to just say this. Because I know y'all start running for the hills. Y'all start running for the hills when this card comes out in a reading. Everybody chill out. Everybody chill out. I'm going to point this out. And this is why it's really important right now that you don't become reactive. Because I always like to point this out when we see this Tower card. The difference between a crisis and a breakthrough is how you energetically carry something, okay? The difference between a crisis and a breakthrough is how you energetically carry something, okay? So we see even now, and I think that this is a very positive, listen, I think that this is a very positive Tower card in relationality, because what did I just say? What did I just articulate was happening, especially for masculine energy? There may be some masculine energy right now in separation that is becoming observant of one's own energetic cycles, that wherein you come into a place of over-emotionality that sometimes moves you further away from your intentionality. What occurs in the modality that you recognize that something about your emotionality or the way that you're bringing forth your emotionality potentially is moving you away from your intentionality? Boom! Boom! Tower moment. Understanding, recognition of that experience, recognition of something that you're seeing in the self, that immediately once you recognize it, poof, once you see it, you can move through it. So this is a healthy energetic detonation to a certain extent, so long as one does not become reactive through it, because that is that moment of being like, I like to point out this Tower card can either feel like an explosion, but sometimes it can feel like a light bulb. It can feel like a light bulb, as long as what it's getting rid of is something that is not helpful, right? So there could be a lot of the masculine energy right now that is doing that work and being like, oh, like, oh, nuts, like, like, oh, crud. And that's okay. That's a good thing. Like when you see that, like, just like say thank you. Just say thank you, because that's that moment where you just got to see yourself in a way that you couldn't before. Right? It's helping you recognize something that, like, you caught yourself. You're like, oh, there you go. Oh, like, so a little bit of this energy right now for masculine, it may be becoming more energetically productive to a certain extent. And for a lot of the feminine energy, I told you, this is a lot of that karmic clearing. And a lot of this karmic clearing is happening specifically because there's a lot of feminine energy right now in the modality of the present, seeing masculine coming towards them from a place of intentionality. This is how the feminine energy is releasing a lot of that experience of the past, especially if this was the feminine looking back and being like, was that intentional? Like, this is the feminine energy looking back on the past and saying, no, it wasn't intentional. It was childish, right? And this is a lot of the feminine energy that's healing from anything in the past, wherein, again, what happens in those modalities where we can look back at places of frustration, but we're able to bring compassion towards it. This is almost a lot of the feminine energy looking towards the masculine of the past in some way and saying, and like almost holding a moment of modality and saying, I can see how that person's ego moved them further away from the direction that they desired to go, because they weren't in good relationship towards it. So we see even now that the feminine energy being able to navigate those spaces, and what happens in the experience of saying, that was someone who let someone's, like, that's someone who like let someone, their unhealed inner child go rampant. Well, again, what do you do when you have an unhealed inner child that you're recognizing from the past? You can hold compassion for it, but you also hold the standards. you also hold the standards. Like, you don't let the unhealed inner child run around. Like, you have to hold the energetic standards to a certain extent, because that's that sense or space of compassion, but also like drawing a line to a certain extent, right? So we see even now that for a lot of the energy of the feminine, being able to come into that modality is what's helping the feminine in separation not hold on to any energetic bitterness, not carrying forth. Like again, we talked about honoring the energetic wounds. How do we honor the energetic wounds? We're able to see in a perspective of saying, I don't believe that person would have intentionally moved towards me to create that, right? But at the same time, if someone unintentionally hurt you, you also don't allow them close to you unless they recognize and identify and see within themselves how they may have inadvertently done that. So we see even now that there's a lot of this energy and separation that's having a lot, like this is a very, very, very important retrograde, because there's a lot of energetic healing that's coming through, and a lot of it is being able to resolve past experiences in a way that feel like they are productive. Masculine and feminine energy right now, I'm going to tell you right now that the area I am most anxious about right now is some of this energy that I'm seeing that is moving deeper into divine union, specifically and particularly because there's some volatility here. This could even speak about something like a little bit of that, like those volatile moments that we sometimes have with counterparts. So we're even seeing here, if these are modalities wherein again, masculine is feeling an energetic oversensitivity about something from the past, articulate, I'm going to say it right now, articulate through it. Don't react to it, articulate through it. Use your energetic words. Speak from what you're feeling. Don't let the emotionality of what you're feeling move you away from your intentionality at this time. Because we see even now, like there's something about that overprotectiveness. What happens with the overprotectiveness of the masculine? If the masculine isn't able to if you're not able to navigate it, sometimes that overprotectiveness can move you in the direction oppositional to the one that you desire or aspire to move towards. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, having that modality, this could be allowing for a lot of breakthroughs right now for energy that's moving deeper into divine union. And I can almost see the energy laughing and being like, that was a little bit of a conflict point there. Like that was like something that we had to resolve. But even here, like that modality of seeing the expression or seeing the expansion of that and seeing how it can be productive. That's why so much of this could be, again, that slight volatility that allows for that point of energetic expansion. Because even here, this is the emotionality. Like, look at this. This is the masculine energy learning to feel that expression point and immediately emotionally control it. While for feminine energy, again, some of this work that I'm seeing here, again, finding a masculine in a moment of emotional vulnerability that's able to articulate through it instead of react to it. This is, again, a lot of the feminine energy that may be feeling even in that modality of experiencing something that feels like it's difficult to navigate. It almost allows for that experience wherein we see the feminine feels the emotional security and safety of the masculine, because this is a feminine energy that sees masculine that protects others from their own over emotionality, right? And what happens in those modalities where feminine recognizes a masculine that moves into a point of volatility but is always able to balance it? Like, this is feminine, again, feeling the security and safety of those energetic connections. While for the energy deep within the divine union frequency right now, this is a lot of that work that we're recognizing deep within the divine union frequency right now that has to do specifically, and I want to just describe what I'm seeing here. This is the feminine energy right now. I want to say this is some masculine energy right now that's going through some kind of experience that it's emotion. I want to say this, it feels like there's a lot of that this is a lot of the masculine energy that's I want to say navigating some child wounds they haven't navigated before. And again, sometimes when things of that nature come up, it can be a little staggering, right? It can be a little like someone saying I didn't realize that was going to have an impact on me like that, right? So we see even now, like for a lot of the masculine, the feminine energy, helping the masculine through that, like this is like a lot of like trauma. I want to say this is like a lot of like trauma informed feminine helping masculine in those modalities of feminine almost looking to masculine and being like, oh no, I've experienced that before. No, I've experienced something that like, you know, oops, I did not like expect that to have that. I did not expect that to have that impact on me. You know what I mean? Like this is a lot of the feminine energy that's like, oh yeah, I've been there. I understand that. Like, but in a way, and again, I think even here, like that's a lot of the feminine energy going through that modality within divine union, and it feels like a breakthrough point, right? Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today, peaceful energy here. We've got here, look at this. This is what we want to see, my friends. You see this? This is what we want to see. These are again, I tell you, it's really important what the cards are around a card. These are the cards that we want to see around like the Tower card, because what do we see here? We see that volatility point with peace, right? With peace around it, right? Like it's protected. The Tower moment that's protected, the Tower moment that feels like it's restorational, because we see even here with the cards that are around it, with our 9 of Swords in its reversal and our 5 of Wands in its reversal, that this is the type of energy where it's like, this is like, remember I kept talking about those breakthroughs? This is like breakthrough energy here, because that's the energy that's like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like that burst. It's like that burst of insight. It's like it's breaking out of the energetic limitation in a way that and this is good too, because you remember how I was saying to a certain extent that there was a lot of energy that was like working through or trying to like solve some kind of energetic problems to a certain extent. Like I told you, that's why even now, like not letting yourself be like, do everything you can right now to be energetically productive through this retrograde. A lot of breakthroughs right now. A lot of energetic breakthroughs that are occurring across all of the frequencies. For masculine, like just across all of them. So for the energy right now, and again, for the energy deep within the divine union, this may maybe just be like ideas. This may just be like new ideas that are coming through, right? While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is not feeling, this is why I'm going to say it again, I'm a little more conscientious about the energy coming into divine union right now, because this is about problem resolution. I'm almost saying that there's some energy right now coming into divine union that like something having a little bit of that, it's like something that's like hit some kind of trigger with masculine. But again, being able to navigate that in a way that masculine, not becoming reactive, but being able to articulate through it with feminine, immediately having breakthroughs in relationality to the deepening of an energetic connection. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, a lot of this energy in separation right now, those breakthroughs that are happening may have to do either with, again, a breakthrough in relationality to being able to build into a connection in a way that isn't going to feel so emotionally overwhelming for both masculine and feminine, finding some kind of easement point. Or this is energy that is having deep breakthroughs in relationality to how one was carrying the past, specifically and particularly, either for masculine, recognizing and identifying cycles from the past, wherein again, it feels like the egoic self moved you away from one's own intentionality, like coming into that space of recognizing when that over emotionality sometimes moved you in a direction that was not the direction that you aspired and desired to go, which immediately in recognizing it allows for a point of energetic breakthrough. Or for a lot of the feminine energy, seeing something from the past and recognizing the energy of the unhealed masculine inner child that may have caused a wound, is how a lot of the feminine energy is going forward by releasing any bitterness or frustration from the past, while also maintaining and holding one's own energetic standards. Because if someone's moving from a space of acting in the modality of allowing their unhealed inner child to guide them, like one puts emotional distance from them because one doesn't feel energetically safe near them. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 7 of Swords in its upright in combination with our King of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Strength card in its reversal. Now, this is a lot of vulnerable work right now. And for feminine, again, this is the work that was occurring within the divine union that's channeling down to the energy and separation. Because again, what was the energy within the divine union doing just about a week ago? They were doing that work in relationality to navigating, coming through from a place or space of holding compassion for the self. Masculine, taking more compassionate approaches to situations. Feminine, having that modality of, again, holding compassion for circumstances and situations, but also the resiliency in recognizing that the compassion that you give to others needs to extend to yourself as well. So for a lot of go catch the reading a few weeks, like about a week ago, if you want to catch this full explanation. So for a lot of the energy in that modality right now, for masculine energy, this could be a lot of that moment that we're seeing, that masculine, you may be noticing that, again, sometimes that like we talked about. So the difference here that we were seeing is that for some of the masculine energy deep within the divine union, that was feeling energetically provoked from the outside, right? Like this is like the energy that was feeling energetically provoked from the outside. And again, we had that lesson that was coming through that says if someone approaches you in a way that like you don't oblige them by matching them in that modality and meeting them there. Like hold the energetic standard. And we see even now that for some of the energy within, like in separation of the masculine, that ability of recognizing that sometimes when you move from a space of just allowing one's emotions, allowing what one feels to guide you instead of what one intends, you often take a step backward instead of a step forward. So for a lot of the masculine energy, having that modality of, again, pausing, feeling like not reacting from the emotional center, allowing oneself to feel the security, inhabiting an emotional, energetic feeling, and feeling the vulnerability of doing so. This is a lot of the masculine energy that may be recognizing and identifying those spaces and places from the past wherein they allowed their emotionality to drive them forward in a direction that created that space that was oppositional from the direction that they may have intended to go. So a lot of this work that we're seeing right now for masculine, it's healing. It's energetically healing because it's a recognition point of the changes. Like once you see that within the self, it's hard to inhabit that modality. Right? It's hard to because you're recognizing it within the self. So that's good, because for a lot of the masculine energy, that's allowing oneself not just to feel what one's feeling, but to observe what one's feeling instead of reacting towards it. For a lot of the feminine energy right now, this is how feminine energy is letting go or releasing any bitterness from the past. This is how the feminine energy is releasing or letting go of any bitterness or frustration from the past that may be emerging. Because if this is feminine energy that's looking back from the past and they've reframed something in such a way, some of that reframing is looking back on the past and being like, that was like a little child. That was a little energetic child that hurt me. Like that's like the energy of the feminine going, that was someone's little unhealed inner child running around with a sharp object, just, doing some damage. And so we see even now, like, that's the energy, like almost looking, this like mass feminine looking back at some masculine energy in the past and being like, wow, they were running with scissors. They were running with scissors and they ran those scissors right into me, right? Like a lot of that energy of the feminine looking at something in that way is like how we see is how we see that the energy of the feminine is saying, I can hold so much compassion. I can hold so much love for that person, but also stay the heck away. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, but also giving someone a large energetic birth, right? Like that's the feminine energy. That's like, I wish you love, stay about but you have to stay like 25 feet from me at all times. Like, cause that's the energy of the feminine that recognizes that that's how we bring the compassion of the standards without holding on to bitterness, right? You can say, I have all the love in the world for that person, but geez Louise, like, you know what I mean? So we see even now, like that's how a lot of that energy is kind of being karmically cleared right now. for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, like a lot of that work that we're seeing to a certain extent right now, a lot of that work that we're seeing is in relationality to, again, and I got to say this right now, I'm really giving a little bit of a warning here, okay? You listen to me today, anyone moving into divine union, if you're like hitting that moment of hitting some kind of energetic conflict here, and something having to do with the fact that masculine is feeling very emotionally vulnerable and sensitive about something, I don't want you to react to that volatility. I want you to speak through it. Talk about what you're feeling. Talk about why you're feeling it. Express what those sentiments are. Don't let the reactivity like knock you off your center in relationality to what it is that you feel like one's intentions are. Because I see even now, like there's a little bit of that masculine energy that's feeling like a little, like there's a little bit of that reactivity here. So again, it's okay. Listen, it's okay to, like, again, it's okay to have a big emotion. You know, feminine knows this really well. But what we do with the big emotion is like our responsibility, right? How we move through it is our choice. So we see even now that there may be a lot of that vulnerability that's being articulated in order to find pathwork of energetic healing. While for masculine, and again, for masculine, this is a little bit more work today because I can see even now, like that, I'm telling you, I kept warning you guys, I saw a little bit of this like overprotectiveness of the masculine coming towards the feminine as they move deeper into divine union. And that overprotectiveness needs to feel constructive. It needs to feel like love, right? While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union, a lot of this energy right now, deep within the divine union, like this is masculine energy that has reached a level of emotion, of safety, of emotional vulnerability within the frequency itself. That something here is like, it's almost like I see masculine being ready to open up about something that was hard for them to open up about. Like there's a lot of this emotionality here. Like this is a lot of the like when we come into that modality of feeling emotionally like balanced, it allows for that breakthrough point in being able to express and articulate things that may have been like, that may have felt like, I feel like there's a little bit of floodgate energy here. For masculine, deep within the divine union, but it feels like, it feels good. This feels a little bit like a dam breaking, but like the dam breaking that I'm seeing here, it feels like one that, like I told you, the honoring of the wound that then allows for that articulation of the wound in itself. So I feel like there's a lot of this masculine energy in this modality right now that feels like that sense or space of being able to emotionally talk through something that may have been hard for them to talk it through in the past. Continuing, and for feminine, kind of being in that modality of like building into that structure of helping the masculine recognize that it's safe to be emotionally vulnerable. Like that's where we see so much of this catharsis that's coming through. This is like I gotta say, this is like a very heavy retrograde emotionally for masculine right now. Continuing to get clarification between our King of Cups and its reversal in combination with our Nine of Swords and its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. Reconsideration points is what we're really seeing. And again, why is that happening right now? Because again, a lot of this masculine energy that's within the divine union is feeling the emotional like safety. Like they're feeling the safety of being emotionally vulnerable. Like being able to come into that modality of vulnerability. Like it's creating, I told you, it's creating a reframing of something that occurred in the past in a different way. That's helping the masculine. Like I said, this is almost the masculine that like wants to articulate towards something in a way. Because again, it's almost like, I want to say, it's like they're almost like, it's like they're reframing something in their own mindset. And I see that in this way, like this is almost why the masculine is being able to come forward in this way to articulate to feminine in this fashion, because we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, simply having a space or place where they feel like the feminine is like, I want to say, like a judgment-free zone, right? Like that's what love is, right? Like the modality of love is often being in that experience of having like that judgment-free zone to a certain extent. We see even here, and I want to say this, like it's not the judgment-free zone that says like anything is permissible. It's the judgment-free zone that like allows one to articulate through one's own limitations in such a way that you recognize that someone's like is there to like, to like bear witness to it to a certain extent. We see even now that like a lot of that energy navigating that modality, like like that's what I meant about like that emotional or energetic floodgate to a certain extent, because it's almost allowing that state or space of the masculine feeling the release and relief and being able to articulate in such a way that like immediately allows for that feeling of energetic catharsis in the process. So this is heavy energy. Like this is good, like this is good work for the energy deep within the divine union. And feminine, like again, I almost see feminine being in that modality of saying like, like that's the energy of the feminine that's reinforcing to the masculine that like they're always there for them in that way. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union. This is why I am feeling like, this is why what I'm seeing here makes me a little bit more anxious, because we recognize that for the energy deep within the divine union frequency, the safety and security of feeling that emotional expression, like that's deep set. Like that's like not up for debate to a certain extent. For the energy coming into divine union right now, like navigating through those like emotional or energetic triggers is still a lot of the work that we're seeing that potentially is occurring for some of the energy coming into divine union right now. So again, and this is why I'm saying even now, if masculine is being more emotionally sensitive about something from the feminine past, having that experience of coming forward to a certain extent. Remember what I said, the energy within the divine union, that judgment-free zone, that modality of inhabiting a space where, again, you reach into the past and you only pull out tools. You don't pull out weapons. We see even now that for a lot of the energy navigating that territory, if these are those modalities wherein, again, something is feeling overly sensitive, the ability to articulate through it, the ability to have that experience and talk through something in such a way that creates that point of productivity, allows for that point of emotional breakthrough. There could be a lot of energy right now that feels that expansion point, if you will, in relationality to what one is experiencing, as opposed to those situations and circumstances that, like, again, this could be something that like this could energetically like move someone out of divine union if you're not energetically careful, because like that's that modality of, again, recognizing that like the space and place of love is one that always navigates through in again, like trust and recognition, as opposed to allowing that overprotectiveness to move you in the direction that is oppositional from the one that you aspire and desire to go towards. While for masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, this is why so much of this work right now, it may feel a little bit more difficult for masculine as opposed to feminine, because we see even now that if this is masculine energy that's doing like for feminine energy, having that breakthrough point, looking back at experiences from the past, from the context of the present, and almost looking back at the past and being like, oh, that makes a lot of sense right now. That was an unhealed inner child. That was an unhealed inner child that was moving in that way. And having that modality of the feminine seeing and experiencing that, like, again, it feels like relief. It feels like compassion, but compassion within standards, right? For masculine, potentially having some modalities now of the context of the present recognizing and seeing something like around the self that is giving you, and I think that this is why it's so like maybe more emotionally difficult today, something about the masculine, seeing something about the self that is a reflection of the unhealed inner child. Well, congratulations. If you've seen that, if you identified that, if you see it now, well, that gives you some options, right? Because now you see something. Now you can make a choice. Like now it's not something that you're doing unintentionally. Now it's something that you're doing with a lot, like you can see it within you, and that gives you the ability to change it. So we see even now that a lot of that energy in separation, like this is beautiful. This is productive, right? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Nine of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Tower in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Ace of Cups in its reversal. I believe we had this card yesterday too. It's an emotional day. It's an emotional day. I want everybody, listen to me, I want everybody drinking your water. I want everybody going for walks, because this is one of those days that feels like an amplification day. So that's why I want you guys to stay in a positive mindset. Because if you're feeling like low, you're just gonna feel a lot of low today. If you're feeling high, you're gonna feel a lot of high today. But allow a lot of this work that we're seeing right now. There's a lot of this breakthrough energy that we're seeing. And that breakthrough that we're seeing to a certain extent, a lot of it, and I'm seeing even now, there may be some energy right now in separation that has like a by George, I think I've got it solution here to some kind of energetic problem that you may be having in relationality to some kind of connection. Like I told you, there's a little bit of that like light bulb moment that's happening for some of the, like there's a big light bulb moment that's happening for a lot of energy right now. For energy, and like again, for some of the energy right now, that is the observational point in looking at something from the past with a new sense of optics. For some of the energy right now, this is some energy that's having a moment of insight in relationality to how to solve an energetic problem. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna say it again. Listen to me. If you're in a fight right now, you listen to me, okay? You are only allowed to bring up the past if it is a tool to fix the present, not if you're pulling out something to break it, okay? like let that past be a toolbox and not an armory, okay? I'm saying this right now because I'm seeing even now there's a little bit of this volatility, and I don't like it, for seeing masculine and feminine about something from the past, and masculine's more emotional about it, being able to articulate through an emotionality point. Like that's how we get to know one another better. That's how we build into new insights, new opportunities. And again, that can be the release valve that allows for the deepening of a lot of energetic connections from a place of feeling the security and safety and being able to talk or articulate from a place that doesn't feel heavy with energetic judgment is where you want to be right now. Because I'm seeing even here, like that's going to feel very emotional, very cathartic, very healing. But don't get triggered. Don't, especially masculine today, listen to me. Don't let that emotionality move you off target in relationality to your own intentions. For masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, a lot of this work that we're seeing in relationality though, like this is masculine energy wanting to talk about something is what I'm seeing. Like this is the energy of like within divine union of just being like masculine. I want to say like almost being emotionally ready to talk about things that they might not necessarily have felt emotionally ready to talk about in the past. And I see even now that for a lot of the energy in that modality right now, this feels like catharsis, right? And for a lot of the feminine energy, seeing the masculine in that modality and almost again coming into that space or place of saying, I'm here to talk about anything you ever want to talk about. Like this is like where we see more of that energy. And I want to say, for a lot of the energy, it's like that sense of like recognizing that like you don't force a spring when relationality to something emotional being discussed. It's almost that sense of identifying and saying like, whenever you're ready, I'm here kind of thing, You know, like it's like almost the feminine being like, you know, like that's something that I'm here for. It's not something that I demand of you. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Tower card. I almost see some of the energy of the masculine being like, that's why, right? Clarification between our Tower card in combination with our Five of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Page of Swords in its upright. So this is, like I said, even through some of that, like, for some of this energy right now, these are breakthroughs. These are breakthroughs. These are, I'm just going to say, I have to say, this is like one of the most the most positive Tower cards I've ever pulled in the spread, especially with the card surrounding it. Because this is that modality that I just see that it's like it feels more like a light bulb, you know? Masculine and feminine energy deep within the divine union frequency right now. A lot of that work is like, again, I feel like it's a lot of the masculine almost looking at something in a way and saying to themselves, like, I'm energetically ready to navigate something in a way that I haven't before. And a lot of it feels like something internal within the self that one's been holding on to. Like a lot of it just feels like that sense of the masculine, like wanting to articulate from an emotional place something that they've been holding within. For feminine energy right now, like a lot of that is the feminine almost articulating to the masculine, again, come in that context of saying it's not your job to have to be strong all the time. You know, your intrinsic value does not require you to have to hold things within. You know, that's a burden that can be energetically shared. So we see even here that for a lot of the energy in that modality, being able to energetically share that burden, if you will, holding like the feminine, coming into that point of energetic resilience. Like this is a lot of the masculine that is like, you know, healing from some deep inner child wounds because of the emotional strength of the feminine that doesn't force it from them, but affirms to them that they're always there should they want to bring it forth. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is why I'm going to say again, it's so important and so vital, wherein we see right now that so much of this work that's being navigated is not allowing oneself to get volatile, especially if there's a sensitivity, particularly in relationality to something that is connected to the past here. Because again, masculine energy, I'm going to say this again, I'm seeing that there's masculine energy that's holding something, taking a lot of emotionality from something that feminine may not necessarily have the same emotionality towards right now. And being able to articulate and define that, helping like, again, recognize the difference between having a strong emotionality and like, again, not running on the assumption of what that emotionality brings forth, but utilizing that as a pathwork of curiosity and introspection. This is a lot of the energy that may be feeling like that those conversations are fortifying an energetic connection in spaces and places where in the past they may have like created like massive hurdles, right? While for masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, a lot of this has to do with like new starts. This is either energy that's come through with, like, if this was a little bit of head scratching in terms of how to navigate a situation, this is either energy that's found some kind of like they've seized upon some kind of energetic solution here. While for other aspects right now of the energy that is in separation, that ability of experiencing a breakthrough point in relationality from what one was receiving in, again, a healthy energetic separation point, right? I see even now there's some energy that may be coming into separation, but even in that separation, there's some kind of profound breakthrough that's occurring in relationality to past experiences. And that's allowing for that moment that, like, I just want to say, like, feels like it feels like there's so much of that release and relief. And for feminine, this is, again, the recontextualizing of experiences in the past in a new way. And but in a way that, like, again, one is able to bring forth compassion, but also setting those healthy standards going forward. While for masculine, this is a potential observation of something about the past and moving in this directionality of your own unhealed inner child that's helping you take a new approach to solutions in the present, right? Because something that is observed is something that can be corrected for. Continuing to get clarification between our strength card in its reversal in combination to our judgment in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Wands and it's upright. We love this card and it's upright. So beautiful. Like, this is the value and power right now towards feminine is in relationality to communication. It's in relationality to, again, health, like communication, but again, stating and articulating healthy energetic standards. We're just seeing that to a certain extent. A lot of that feminine energy right now in separation, like there's either something that has occurred in a recent energetic connection that has given you a sense or renewed your own sense of confidence within the self. Or these are, you know, modalities where this could even be the feminine having seized upon some solution to an energetic problem in relationality to separation at this time. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, a lot of this energy that we're seeing right now that's coming into divine union has to do specifically and particularly with, again, recognizing and appreciating, like having productive communication and on conversations that don't assume all about that. Like, it's, again, it's like that. I just keep hearing coming into that point of not assuming, but articulating upon what is being expressed by the feminine. So we see even now, and this is why I'm a little like saying that this can be a little bit difficult right now for the energy coming into divine union, because that ability of, again, coming, like, this is almost like a trust process here, right? This is almost like, this is like a beautiful trust process potentially occurring for energy that's coming into divine union right now. Because, like, if the masculine's coming forth in a place of, again, not becoming reactive about their emotionality, but articulating towards it to feminine, giving the feminine that modality or that opportunity to articulate upon like how the masculine is feeling versus how the feminine is feeling. We see even now, this could be a lot of that path work that feels very energetically vital. It feels very energetically productive. It feels very energetically expansive, specifically because it feels like it allows for an opportunity of a breakthrough in relationality to, like, again, there's a disparity here between what the masculine may be feeling versus what the feminine is. But that's that moment that, like, being able, what happens in that modality where you see something differently, being able to honor and share one's own perspective and trust in the perspective of the counterpart. We see even here, like, that creates that state or space of energetic breakthrough. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is deep within the divine union, this is a lot of the masculine just being in that modality of feeling safe to emotionally express something in a way, specifically because they've built upon that state or space of energetically trusting the feminine. Like that feeling of energetic trust within the feminine, that feeling of the feminine being able to be in that point of stability. Like, this is what is allowing a lot of the masculine energy to kind of come towards feminine in this way, because this is the masculine that feels like the feminine energy has created a condition by which the masculine feels like it is safe to be vulnerable. Continuing to get clarification between our Judgment card in its reversal in combination with our Ace of Cups in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Page of Wands in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency. I'm telling you even now, there's a lot, it's all about this inner child healing that's occurring right now. There's a lot of inner child healing that's happening right now for masculine energy. And a lot of that masculine energy in that modality of inner child healing, this is almost the masculine coming forward towards feminine and being able to like, this is the masculine energy feeling a framework where they're feeling that it is safe to allow that healed inner child, I'm going to keep saying healed inner child, to articulate upon, right? Because this is the work. Like, do you see how this, do you see what happens? Do you see what happens when masculine heals the unhealed inner child in such a way that it feels like it's safe to bring it forth because it's not becoming reactive, it's becoming very energetically, it feels very energetically safe and protected to do so. Feminine being in that modality of creating a sense of that same emotional resiliency, because this is feminine again, not taking in that modality of taking things too energetically personally. Feminine doing also that work on healing the unhealed inner child, which has a tendency of moving into that construct of feeling like things are happening towards them instead of them being able to articulate what is occurring, right? Both of these energies doing this work, a lot of inner child healing that's happening today in a good way, especially for the energy deep within the divine union frequency. While I have to say this right now, this is why I'm a little bit more conscientious for the energy that is coming into divine union. It's really important right now. Listen, if you're having a moment where you're feeling energetically triggered, and I'm saying this specifically towards masculine right now, remember that when you let your unhealed inner child take the wheel, you scared the ever-loving bejesus out of feminine. I don't know if you recognize that, but when you let the unhealed inner child take the wheel, you're not a little child, you're in a big body, right? It can be very alarming towards feminine. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. We're all like, we inhabit these spaces and places. That experience, that ability of recognizing that we are not children. We are in that modality of being energetically grown. That requires a level or degree of emotional responsibility, because we see even now, that's a lot of the masculine energy that's almost recognizing and saying, when I move in the modality of acting like an energetic child that is unhealed, it terrifies the energy around me, right? It's like you're in a mech suit, you have to navigate that in a state or space of being mindful of how something is energetically received. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, navigating that territory, working through those modalities, not allowing oneself to get emotionally triggered, but being able to navigate one's own emotions. The first person that you save someone from, when you navigate your emotions in a way that you control them, is being able to have a healthy relationship, because you build a context by which your counterpart feels like it is safe to be with you. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, navigating that space, it's coming through in a way like it's healing the inner child, because this is the masculine energy that's learning new approaches to communicate in ways that feel like they are vulnerable, because in the vulnerability of articulating the emotion instead of the reactivity, you create a framework by which the feminine feels safe to be able to be to be emotionally resilient and emotionally protect you in the process. So we see even now, like a lot of that, and that's why I'm saying even now, don't let yourself get reactive today. Feminine, recognizing and identifying that if the masculine is coming forth from a place of vulnerability, honor that inner child, the work of the inner child that's occurring in that modality in order for them to do so. Coming into that point of like appreciation, coming into that point of understanding how hard it is for the masculine to be able to articulate and communicate from that space. Honor that and allow that to be a framework where, again, not taking something energetically personally, but almost working to try to protect the masculine as they express their authentic emotions. For masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, a lot of this work today, this is either new ideas, new communication, new approach to something. There's a little bit of this like high energy here. Like there's a little bit of this like there's something about the insights that are occurring today that may require or result in like new energetic communication in some way, shape, or form. I'm just seeing that in a certain way. But again, I think that in a lot of, I think a lot of this feels like it's energetically healthy to a certain extent. And I gotta stress this, some of this communication feels like it is productive. Some of it feels like it's not. Some of it feels like I told you, and that's what happens with these tower moments. This is either like I told you, the difference between a breakthrough and a crisis is how you energetically navigate it. So I see even now, like this could be a lot of energy that's taking a new approach in navigating circumstances or situations that feel like they are productive. Or I'm recognizing and identifying right now that there may be some kind of modality wherein we see even now, like that's that modality of like looking towards something that's coming towards you with that same sense of kind of like having to put that like energetic distance between something because it's looking towards someone and saying like that's not in a space of feeling like it's energetically healed, right? Like a lot of that is just like healthy standards and communication in the process. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Ace of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Page of Swords in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with this Death card energy. So we're just seeing even now a lot of this like a lot of this transition, like a lot of change that's happening right now. But this is productive. This is energetically positive to a certain extent. Specifically and particularly for masculine and feminine energy in separation, having that modality of like recognizing and redefining those experiences from the past in such a way that's helping you either not move forward with a sense of bitterness while also maintaining the energetic standards going forward. Like that feels like that energetic release or relief to a certain extent because you're recognizing again how far you've energetically come. While for masculine energy right now, that recognition point, that understanding, that seeing something within the self that you yourself are working, like could not see before. That's why it's so important not to let yourself feel energetically or emotionally overwhelmed at those moments, because that's not a crisis point. That's a breakthrough point, because that gives you the opportunity to do something different going forward. Continuing to get clarification, while for masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union, that adaptability point, this is the energy that's feeling some of that like this is the energy that and I want to stress this, if things have gotten more energetically complicated because you've moved deeper into an energetic connection, remember that this is what you desired. Like this is what you aspire. Like this is what you were working towards to a certain extent. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy navigating those spaces and places, something about that energetic transition is being navigated here. And I'm seeing that a lot of it has to do specifically with the recognition point in identifying and understanding like what feels, I want to say, how much you've changed. Like I can even see this because we see even now that there's something about that's like the articulation point upon the change from the past to the present that requires that sense of, again, productivity through conversation, as opposed to creating that moment of frustration. So I want to stress this. It's really important for the energy right now coming into divine union. Don't assume, and allow that to be a moment of allowing that introspection point that helps navigate anything that feels like more emotionally vulnerable on the part of the masculine. I'm continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Wands in its upright and our Page of Wands in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Six of Wands in its reversal. Now, masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. A lot of this work that we're seeing right now that is occurring in separation is specifically in relationality to, I want to say, anything from the past that you were carrying that was making you feel like, and this is the inner child wounds that are being healed here. Because if this is feminine, that was looking back in the past and experiencing something in such a way and saying to oneself, nothing I could do was enough in those spaces and places. Nothing I could bring forth, right? That's almost the energy of the feminine looking and saying like, well, yeah, that's the energy. Like, that's often the energy that we experience and receive from the energy of a child, right? Because that's the energy that feels like it's constantly in that modality of desiring to receive something, instead of recognizing that love is an expression of giving back and forth, right? Like, often the change from child to a grown person is recognizing that love is reciprocal, right? It's not the energetic expectation. So we see even now that the ability of recognizing and identifying that balance point, that giving back and forth, the only space and place where we give and we give and we give and we give is usually typically in the modalities of a child, right? So we see even now that a lot of the energy of the feminine, that's where we see that is the energy that the feminine heals from, because this is the feminine going, well, if they were in their unhealed inner child, of course there was nothing I could give them that would meet their energetic expectations, because the energy of an unhealed inner child doesn't assume that they need to return back something. They feel like they're always in that modality that they should energetically receive, right? While for masculine, if these are modalities in the past, wherein, you were also in that modality, like there's a lot of this work of the masculine that's like navigating those spaces and places right now of, I want to say, this is a lot of the masculine coming into that modality of like healing their own unhealed inner child in separation, specifically and particularly because I'm seeing even here, this is the masculine energy that is learning the energetic lesson right now of recognizing and identifying that, working through the ability to navigate one's own emotions is in a way the act of energetic protection towards the feminine. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Because when you're able to be in that modality where, again, you can articulate through your emotions instead of react to them, then the feminine will be present to receive them, because the feminine feels safe to be in the presence of them. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, same energetic message. And we're seeing even now that's why the ability to articulate upon them, the masculine going into that place of vulnerability. And that's why, like, I can almost see the masculine, like masculine's healing their connection to emotionality here. Because there can almost be I see some masculine energy being like, I don't want to tell you about my feelings. I'm not a child. But that's almost the masculine energy going, wait, why do I associate the ability to articulate about my feelings like a child? What created that context in me that said that talking about my feelings isn't something that I should be able to receive in kind? Right? So this is the masculine energy coming into divine union that is learning the ability that when the feminine sees masculine articulating on their emotions, feminine doesn't see masculine as a child. Feminine sees masculine as someone who has done the work of healing their inner child to such a degree that they feel safe to be able to articulate through their emotions instead of reacting to them. While for masculine, and that's why I'm saying even now, please do not get energetically triggered today, especially if there's something where you're feeling emotionally sensitive, masculine. Articulate through it. Don't react to it. Masculine and feminine energy. And feminine, you too. You too. If there's something where masculine is being authentic towards you, being energetically vulnerable, don't shut down on them. create that space of recognizing and inhabiting how much work it takes for the masculine to be able to articulate in that modality. Honor that, right? Masculine and feminine deep within the divine union frequency right now. A lot of this work deep within the divine union frequency has to do with, like, I think I want to say, this is like the healthy communication in relationality to anxieties and doubts and fears and uncertainties, right? Feminine is feeling it more on the practical space. Feminine's feeling more of the practical. Feminine's more in that, like, that's the only thing about this right now. There's a little bit of this, like, imbalance point in relationality to, like, feminine being very much in that practical modality right now, in feeling the anxiety of doing the things that they want to do and trying to get them accomplished. Because I told you, a lot of the feminine energy is utilizing this retrograde period to try to, like, build into, like, a planting. I want to say planting a lot of those energetic seeds. Masculine, this is more of that emotional unpacking here. This is more of that masculine of coming into that modality of just wanting to feel that point of easement. And so we see even here within the divine union, like that ability of holding space for one another's doubts and fears, like that's a lot of that energetic catharsis. It's coming more from the feminine's practical center. Masculine is coming more from like the inner child healing. Continuing to get clarification between our Page of Wands and our Death card, both in their uprights. We've got here our King of Pentacles. And this is, like, I think that this is what is so valuable and important right now, because we're seeing even now that this is how the energy is helping. This is how the energy is helping one another at this time, because we're seeing even now that for masculine energy, you know, for masculine energy in this modality right now, if this is feminine that's articulating upon like their own this is how the energies are like the healthy counterparts. If feminine's articulating upon their own anxieties in relationality to what, like, their own ability of putting things forward, this is the masculine that's giving that tangible support here, right? This is the masculine giving that tangible support. While for feminine, and helping the feminine, like, build that sense of practicality. While for feminine right now, if this is the feminine, seeing the masculine coming into that point of, like, you know, feeling that, like, that new side of themselves that's emerging because they're allowing that inner child to come forward in such a way that they haven't before. This is the feminine that is almost saying to the masculine in that capacity, you know, I consider you stronger than I've ever seen you in the moments that you allow yourself to be most vulnerable to me, right? Like, that's the beauty of some of this work that we're seeing right now. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, this is why I'm going to say it again. I don't want anybody having their unhealed inner child running the conversation today, you know? Specifically and particularly because, again, this could be beautiful energy right now in relationality to building into a deepening energetic commitment. But again, I'm going to say it again. The past is something utilized as tools, not energetic weapons. Don't let it be a toolbox, not an armory. Because even here, like, that modality of feeling some kind of sensitivity and having something about the past emerge, being able to articulate through it, that can create a lot of, like, look at that, like, that energetic, like determination point here, because we see even in that modality here, that feels like it creates that sense of, like, again, strengthening an energetic connection through that process. Like, this is a type of energy. It's like, oh, like, look, that's what it looks like when we come into a point of conflict. That wasn't so bad, right? As opposed to doing something like having that modality of feeling something that, like, you know, hits that vibration and it like feels like it knocks you off your axis. While for masculine and feminine energy and separation right now, this is a lot of healing in relationality to the past. And for masculine and feminine, it's in different ways. For feminine energy, again, there's something about the feminine energy receiving a lot of that stability in the present, right? The stability in the present is what's giving context to anything that felt like it was more like childish in the past, because it's giving you a point of this is the energy being I couldn't tell that because I hadn't seen it in a way that wasn't like that. This is almost the energy being I couldn't see it because I didn't see it outside of that before this point. While for a lot of the masculine energy right now, this is seeing something within the self, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you see it, you're I got that now it would be a choice instead of just something that I'm inadvertently occupying. Final card, but again, that's great because that mode, and that's why I'm saying don't look back in the past if you're feeling regret as a moment of overwhelm. Let that be the new energetic standards that you're holding forward as you proceed forward from this point. Final card for today's spread between our Six of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Knight of Pentacles in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Justice in its reversal. If this card looks familiar, it's because we had it yesterday. This is the retrograde that is healing a lot of imbalances. Just a lot of this work right now. Why? Because a lot of the energy right now is looking more not towards the connections themselves, but more towards the qualities and characteristics of the energetic connections. What happens when we look, instead of the way that we feel towards someone, towards what the shape of the relationship is? It helps us recognize and identify what those imbalances are. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy in separation, the recognition point of the imbalances for feminine energy, this is potentially looking back towards experiences from the past and being well, yeah, that was imbalanced because that was the nature of it, because the energy was in the unhealed inner child state. And if you're in a relationship with an unhealed inner child, it's always going to be in a modality of wanting to receive something but not wanting to give something back in kind. It doesn't feel like it's reciprocal. While for masculine energy in this modality, that observational point of potentially looking back on past experiences, recognizing and identifying those spaces and places where sometimes that over emotionality may have moved you in a way that was the oppositional to the direction that you intended to go. We see that a lot of the masculine energy in separation right now is working on healing their own energetic self, because this is the masculine energy that recognizes that when we heal our own energetic self, when we navigate from our emotional space, when we create a space where the feminine feels safe to be able to inhabit the full experience of the masculine, that is allowing for that place or space where the masculine feels like they can build into an authentic connection with feminine. And for a lot of the energy of the masculine right now in separation, there's a lot of this productivity that's coming forth. There's a lot of this masculine energy that isn't just articulating to feminine how they feel. They're articulating to feminine what that feeling means, right? They're reciprocating with the tangibility of what they're feeling as it relates to something that is energetically productive. While for masculine and feminine energy, and this is why we see that if these were energies that were experiencing obstacles, those solutions are potentially coming towards things right now, because this is a lot of the masculine energy that is not coming from their emotional center. They're bringing themselves out of their emotional center and almost saying to themselves, how can I make sure that my emotionality is bringing me into a place or space that feels like it's energetically productive? While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, again, being able to navigate an imbalance in productive ways, some of us would call that healthy conflict resolution. Right? It's not the fact that we don't have conflicts, but being able to navigate the conflict point from a place of recognizing and understanding the perspective of the counterpart instead of coming into that pathwork of assumption. This could be a beautiful day right now in feeling an imbalance and then immediately feeling that the resolution of one, based and built upon the ability to perceive the differentiations in the perspective between you and the counterpart. But we see even now, that's why it's really important that you don't become reactive and you don't become volatile today. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union, This is a lot of the energy deep within the divine union right now that is doing so much of that work, if you will, on, I want to say, healing from the imbalances of the past. Because again, a good energetic connection does not require one to be perfect, right? A good energetic connection is almost that modality where we recognize our own limitations in the context before we bring them forth to another. So we see even here that for a lot of the energy in that modality, like that is the energy that, like, if this is masculine, that is like feeling that sense of stability or security and being able to bring something forth to feminine that they didn't feel like they had the ability or the balance to do in the past. This is why this feels so energetically healing. Because this is almost a masculine saying, you know, this is what you've given me. This is the gift you've given me. You've given me a state or space where I feel secure enough and safe enough to be able to articulate on something that was hard for me to navigate before. While for feminine energy, again, almost articulating to the masculine in that capacity and in that degree, saying, again, when you're vulnerable, I feel like you are the most strong. Like that vulnerability is your strength. We see even now that for a lot of the energy navigating that is creating that deepening, like, of the energetic connection by recognizing those spaces and places within the self wherein we feel like we lack, right? We identify them so that we can kind of come into that course correction. For feminine, it has more to do with practicality right now. And masculine, and like masculine's almost looking at feminine being like, if your only issue is like a practical one, that's like the best, like the masculine being like, I can help you with that. You know, like, and if this is masculine, and if this is and this is feminine looking to masculine going, if your issue here is emotional, well, I can help you with that, right? Bottom of the deck, we've got here our Chariot energy. So there's a little bit of this work that needs to be done. Again, I'm going to stress this. It's the retrograde. I know things don't feel like they're moving right now, right? It feels a little stuck in the mud, right? It feels a little like it's it's the retrograde. I don't even feel like I need to explain it. Like, yeah, if you're feeling that sense of like stillness, and I told you, it's creating more of a restlessness. It's creating more emotional restlessness in the masculine energy. Feminine's just getting productive as heck in it. Feminine's just feminine's just knocking stuff off their to-do list. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Let that, like, just recognize the difference between the quality and nature of, like, don't internalize an external situation. Recognize the quality and characteristics of the retrograde. Don't take them on, don't internally embody them. You know, like that's kind of the message there. And that's happening across all of the frequencies. That is our daily collective read for the day. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and receiving it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. Also, I'd like to let you guys know about a couple of updates prior to us going into personal readings. First and foremost, thank you to everybody who attended our Empress class the last month. We are going to be continuing with our class program with our Emperor class that will be happening on August 14th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you would like to become a part of that class program, all you need to do is head over to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. Your paid subscription to my Substack will grant you access and entry into our live classes each month. You'll also have access to the course materials and recordings for all of our previous classes. So if you missed any of the previous classes, you've got a whole week to catch up. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me to ask any questions that you may have in relationality to anything that we're learning. And if If you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you'll also receive a complimentary mentorship class with me, wherein we will assess where you are on your own tarot journey, and I'll give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize the classes to the best of your advantage going forward. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. So I want to thank you so much if you've already joined us there, and I look forward to seeing you at our next class. But even if you don't become a subscriber to my Substack, a paid subscriber, I would encourage you to follow me there to be able to stay up to date on any new newsletters. I post my newsletter every week that gives you my live schedule, any new events, any new offerings. I also post Mystic Meditations up there, which gives you a brief recap on what we've been seeing in the shifts energetically if you don't have time to catch all of the readings. You'll also have access to our giveaway information. Speaking of giveaways, congratulations to the individual who won our July giveaway. You can head over to my Substack if you'd like to see if you've won. We are now doing our giveaway for a free tarot reading in August. If you would like to enter that giveaway, head over to the link tree in my bio. There is a 2-minute travel survey there. Filling out that travel survey will grant you will grant you entry into the giveaway. But if you would like to increase your chances of winning, go ahead and forward that to a friend, because when I pull the winner, I'm giving away a free reading not only to the winner, but whoever referred them. So thank you if you already entered, and I wish you the best of luck of winning this month. Finally, I have a couple new offerings that I now offer on top of my standard life path readings. I now offer mentorship classes. These can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly course. That is 4 45-minute classes, 1 per week over the span of a month. These can be focused on whatever area of study you are most interested or invested in learning about. I take a very limited number of students for this reason. Also, for my clients that are seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight classes, weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, 1 per week over the space of a month, so that you can stay more consistent on your own journey. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again